This is Dan Dix here reporting for Press for Truth, and I am here with the one and only Chad Jackett of Liberty Farms and Grassroots Medicinal.ca. And Chad, we've once again found ourselves out in the middle of the boonies, in the middle of nowhere at yet another event. This is the Great Canadian Glass Gathering, I believe it's called. Fill us in a little bit about what this event is all about. What goes on here?
Well, there is a whole lot of extremely talented artists here that are blowing glass and showing off their artwork. Really talented, and it seems like every year they just get better and better and better. And there's also a ton of just people from the craft community here, farmers, extractors, people that are making salves and everything, you know, just really everything. Anything you could possibly imagine to do with cannabis is here.
How important do you think it is for the cannabis community to network with one another in the face of what Justin Trudeau is attempting to bring in, the so-called legalization, as they call it? How important do you think it is for people to, you know, work together in order to make sure we have proper legalization?
Well, it's absolutely crucial. You know, we started the Cannabis Growers of Canada to stand up for the small craft community and to be a voice for these people. And I really think this year is a year that people really need to rally together and get behind the Cannabis Growers of Canada. It's really just a vehicle for the people to, you know, whatever they put into it, they get out of it. And, you know, really, it's a voice for the people to speak and to be in these boardrooms and to be able to speak to the government and to speak to you know what's going on, and to be a voice really to everyone, to the community and all over the place. So.
Well, I think a lot of people who are watching this, you know, from you know at home on their TVs and stuff, are seeing a lot of raids, a lot of people getting busted for what is about to apparently become legalized, and it doesn't really make much sense. You know, what is the police's role? Should it be when it comes to dealing with cannabis, and should they even be involved at all? Because it seems to me if they're spending their time trying to deal with cannabis users, they're, you know, not dealing with real criminals, right? And therefore creating an even bigger problem.
I think really the only time that the police should be involved at all with cannabis is if somebody's stolen some cannabis from somebody. Other than that, there's not really a crime, you know, to be had. There's there's no injury, there's no harm, and really the harm comes from the government. So if any crime's being committed, I would say the government and, you know, those with the guns and badges that are coming for people that are harmless, trying to use a medicinal herb, are the criminals in this matter. So.
This new legislation that's recently was released or announced is not really looking good. We went over a few of the things last time, but what would you say is some of the more important things that, you know, seems that it's actually taken away our rights as opposed to, you know, giving Canadians what they actually want?
Right. So, you know, they've said now that you can smoke cannabis, a small amount of it, but if you drive, you know, with a certain, you know, with a certain amount of cannabis in your system, and it's 2 nanograms or something, which is really not too much. You know, when cannabis stays in your system for quite some time, as most people know, sometimes up to 40 days. I mean, it's a very problematic law. I think it's really ridiculous.
It almost makes it so that none of the medicinal patients are going to be allowed to drive. I mean, how could
exactly? It's basically cutting off people's right to travel. You know, their right to being an independent, free person that can just travel freely at their own will without being susceptible to some sort of, you know, public transit or some sort of crap that's, you know, handed over to you by the government, which is always loaded. You know what, you know?
Well, it seems like less and less government is best. Like, the more they get involved with these things, the worse we're finding it is. And it's especially true in the cannabis industry. They're trying to bring in Marijuana Inc., whereas what you are trying to promote is the craft cannabis movement, right?
Absolutely. You know, we're really just standing up for the community that built this whole industry and had their hearts and souls and lives and livelihood and, you know, families and property on the line for so many years and still do, and, you know, aren't being recognized recognized for the hard work that they put in to get us to this point now that it's being recognized as a medicinal herb. And now the government and their cronies in the industry that with the LP system are just trying to capitalize on everything that that so many within the community have built. And stuff like this doesn't just happen because the government sanctions it and says, well, I think we're gonna have a glass gathering and everybody's gonna learn how to build bongs now and stuff. No, like everybody did this because of their passion for it, because they love it and they love their communities, and they get together and they share knowledge with one another, and then stuff like this happens, eventually evolves into something like this, and without the free market, you can't have naturally organically growing businesses and something that is true and real and viable. You get fake markets under socialism, under this socialist sort of, only a few people get sort of licenses, and it's sanctioned by the government. It's not a very safe situation for anybody to be in, and it's very easy to control crashes and things like that for somebody like the government if they want to take certain people out in the market or whatever they want to do. So a free market is always the way to be. It's the way to get people out of poverty. Nobody's ever gotten out of poverty from the government trying to get them out of poverty and saying, oh, we're gonna, look what happens in communism. Communism just collapses always. It's a miserable thing. Like, look at Venezuela under the type of socialism that they're under down there right now. The people need to be able to take care of themselves. They need to be able to stand on their own 2 feet, not just wait for some other bureaucrat to figure it out. I mean, realistically, do people really think some bureaucrat in Ottawa or something can grow a better tomato or a better cannabis plant than they can? Do you think it's better to wait for them to come and grow it for you than to just grow it yourself? I mean, we need to think for ourselves. I mean, that's called life.
And that's why it's great, that guys like you are kind of paving the way, with like what you did with the store Grassroots Medicinal. I mean, that was a beautiful act of civil disobedience, essentially, where the city was not really giving you guys a business permit or a proper thing, and you said, you know what, screw that, we're going to go ahead and do this anyways. And then they had the town hall meetings, and you eventually got the licensing, and it all came through in the end. But you had to do what you had to do in the beginning to get it done, right?
Absolutely. And everybody that has grown this plant before there was ever a license had to do what they had to do, before any licensing scheme and before it was legal at all, and it's not legal, so there's a lot of people that are sitting there going, oh, well, they broke the law, so they deserve to go to prison for a lot of these, busts and stuff that you see on the news, and it's a terrible thing to say. It's like saying something like, let's say there's all kinds of roads out there, and you're not allowed to drive a car on them. How are you going to get that first car on the road if somebody doesn't then say, well, this is stupid, we got all these roads here, why don't we use a car to get around rather than just walk? And and then also there's a situation where, well, maybe there's an emergency and you need to use those roads to get somebody very quickly to a hospital, and somebody's life might be saved. Well, the same thing goes for cannabis. Somebody's life might be saved by you growing that medicinal herb. Well, it's really no different than that vehicle not being able to go on that road to get somebody to the hospital, right? So
that's exactly why it's so important, because we're literally talking about dealing with people's lives. People's lives are at stake. This is medicine for people out there, so it's of the utmost importance. So tell us the links. Let people know where they can go to get joined up with with the membership. And
go to cannagrowers.ca. We need everybody we can get. Like, everybody's got to know this is the year. They say 2018 they're going to legalize. We have 1 year to really group up, to have our voices heard out there, and to demand what we the people want for cannabis and for the freedom of our people in our country. Yeah. You know, and so really, we need everybody we can. Please reach out to us. You know, if you've got ideas, if you've got connections that we can use, throw them to us, and let's make this happen. You know, like I can't do this all on my own. You can't do it all on your own. We need all of us. We need as many of us as we can to make this thing happen.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. Check the links in the description. We continuously say this. We said it before. We'll say it again. Cannabis is the gateway to liberty. Once people find out, you know, how we're being screwed in that right, they'll understand just exactly, you know, the bigger picture.
Absolutely. So. And the other thing is with the whole gateway, the gateway to liberty is definitely what it is. But it's also, you know, people say, oh, it's a gateway drug. No, you know what? I actually would somewhat agree, because it's a gateway drug. The gate opens both ways. You have to go in the gate sometimes, and sometimes you need something to get out of the gate, right? So the gate goes both ways, and cannabis is getting people out of the gate. They're getting out of that trap and that prison of the pharmaceutical industry. And that is truly, you know, what cannabis is. So maybe it is the gateway drug. It's the gateway to freedom.
Yeah, gateway to freedom, the gateway out of big pharma.
Out of the big pharma prison system. Exactly, right?
Well said, and it's hard to argue or disagree with that. Everybody knows what's going on with big pharma, and cannabis is the answer. Check the links in the description, guys. Chad Jackett, thanks so much for talking to us.
Thank you.